Hello again. Welcome to more reading. I hope you're feeling good. All right. Lord Chesterfield says, "Be wiser than other people if you can, but do not tell them so." Part 2. Advanced Tools for Eager Learners. Life is, if nothing else, a persistent teacher. It will repeat a lesson over and over until it is learned. How does life know we've learned? When we change our behavior. Until then, even if we intellectually know something, we haven't really learned it. School remains in session. The good news is that we learn all we need to learn and know everything eventually. For some, however, eventually is not soon enough. If there's something they can learn that will eventually make their lives happier, healthier, and more productive, why not learn it now? That brings happiness, health, and productivity to us sooner and avoids a lot of perhaps painful lessons along the way. Others aren't content with learning only what they need to know. Getting by is not enough. They want more. They are the eager learners who read books with titles just Life 101. Someone once said that only two things that can motivate an enlightened person are love and curiosity. Well, I can't speak for my state of enlightenment, but I can say, considering my level of curiosity, it's a good thing I'm not a cat. Anatole France pointed out more than a century ago, the whole art of teaching is only the art of awakening the natural curiosity of young minds for the purpose of satisfying it afterward. But what if we have questions that seemingly can't be answered? When faced with this quandary, I like to comfort myself with this thought from Emerson. Undoubtedly, we have no questions to ask which are unanswerable. We must trust the perfection of the creation so far as to believe that whatever curiosity the order of things has awakened in our minds, the order of things can satisfy. Life was meant to be lived, Eleanor Roosevelt wrote in her autobiography, and curiosity must be kept alive. One must never, for whatever reason, turn his back on life. This section of the book contains a series of tools designed to keep curiosity alive and thriving. These same tools can also be used to find satisfying answers to the questions you may be curious about. These techniques are designed to accelerate the process of learning. All of these tools, by the way, are optional. To learn the necessary lessons of life, no one needs to know or use any of them. So there's no need to struggle, thinking that if you don't master them, your life will be a failure. Experiment with these techniques. Play with them. Have fun. Also, there's no need to teach these techniques to anyone else, much less insist that people relate to you as though they've already mastered them. Uh-oh, that's where your grandmother is very, very guilty. Guilty. Listening. Also, there's no need to teach these techniques to anyone else, much less insist that people relate to you as though they've already mastered them. These skills are electives in the school of life. If you choose to use any or all of them for your accelerated learning, that's fine. But please don't expect, and certainly don't demand, that others accelerate their learning too. See, this is a lesson I missed in all those years that I've used this book for myself. And it's a lesson that's come up recently, over the last couple weeks. So good timing, Mr. Dead Peter McWilliams. Before we start, let's take a look at why human beings spend so much time struggling against learning. Why we, as a species, seem so opposed to the exploration of new things. Haven't you been curious about that? Why do we resist learning? If we're here to learn, and if we have this seemingly inbuilt desire to learn, called curiosity, well, why do we resist learning? The classic example is the argument, listen to me, no, you listen to me, no, you listen to me, and so on. It seems that somewhere around 18, give or take 10 years, something in us decides, that's it, I've had it, I'm done, all I need to know, I know all I need to know, and I'm not learning anymore. Why? Let's return to the idea of a small child being taught about life by his or her parents. Parents are like gods to little children, the source of food, protection, comfort, love. Also, parents are big. They're 4 to 5 times bigger than children. Imagine how much respect, fear, you'd have for someone 20 to 30 feet tall, weighing 500 to 1,000 pounds. Let's imagine a child, 2, 3 years old, playing in a room. The parents are reading, the child is playing. All is well. After an hour or so, crash! The child bumps a table and knocks over a lamp. Where there was once almost no interaction with the parents, suddenly there's a lot, almost all of it negative. How many times have we told you? Can't you do anything right? What's the matter with you? That was my favorite lamp. Shame, nasty, no good. This verbal tirade may or may not be reinforced by physical punishment. What does the child remember from an evening at home with the folks? Does the child remember the hours spent successfully playing, i.e. no broken anything, while mommy and daddy read? Or does he or she remember the intense 10 minutes of bad boy, nasty girl, shame, 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 after the fall? The negative, of course. It was loud, and it was frightening. Imagine a pair of 30-foot, 100-pound gods yelling at you. It was, for the most part, the only interaction the child may have had with the gods all evening, especially if being put to bed early was part of the punishment. When a child's primary memory of the communication from his or her parents, the gods, is no, don't, stop that, shouldn't, mustn't, shame, bad, 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 what is the child being taught? That he or she can do no good, must be alert for failure at every moment, and still will fail, is a disappointment, a letdown, a failure. In short, the child begins to believe that he or she is fundamentally not good enough, destined for failure, in a word, unworthy. There is very little in the traditional education system to counteract this mistaken belief. If anything, school etches the image even deeper. If we learned all we needed to know in kindergarten, it was promptly drummed out of us in first grade. You are taught you must perform, keep up, and make the grade, or you weren't worth much. If you do work hard at making the grades, some authority figure is bound to ask, well, why are you studying all the time? Why aren't you out playing with the other children? What's wrong with you? Don't you have any friends? Catch-22 never had it so good. Naturally, we can't go around feeling unworthy all the time. It hurts too much. So we invent defenses, behaviors that give the illusion of safety. Soon we notice that others have not only adopted similar defenses, but have taken their defenses to new and exotic extremes. The school of limitation is in session. We begin hanging out with other members of the same club. We are no longer alone. In fact, we start to feel worthy. We have comrades, companions, confidants, and chums. The club? Let's hide away from the terrible, heartful unworthiness. International has 4 main chapters. The rebels. The rebels like to think of themselves as independent. They have, in fact, merely adopted a knee-jerk reaction to whatever law is set before them. They are prime candidates for reverse psychology. The best way to keep children from putting beans in their ears is to tell them they must put beans in their ears. They conform to nonconformity. Most feared fortune cookie. A youth should be respectful of his elders. Slogan. Authority? Will you tell us we're no good? Well, authority, you're no good. The motto, minus the first two words, and the horse you rode in on. If the ones who tell you you are no good, then somehow, well, that makes you good. Somehow. The unconscious. These are the people who seem to not be all there because, for the most part, they're not all there. They're not dumb, mind you. They're just someplace else. A desert island, a rock concert, an ice cream parlor. They are masters of imagination. With authority figures, they do their best to appear dumb, drugged, or asleep. The powers that be then become frustrated and leave them alone. Precisely what the unconscious want. Very clever. Favorite fortune cookie. To know that you do not know is the best. Slogan. You can't expect much from me, so you can't criticize me because, what was I saying? Motto. Huh? The more the world criticizes them, the more they retreat to a fantasy world beyond criticism. The comfort junkies. All that is, or might be uncomfortable, is avoided, unless avoiding it would be more uncomfortable. And all that might bring comfort, food, TV, Walkmans, drinks, drugs, and other distractions, is sought after, unless the seeking after them would be more uncomfortable. In their youth, the comfort junkie scarfs French fries, then mature into couch potatoes. Most feared fortune cookie. The scholar who cherishes the love of comfort is not fit to be deemed a scholar. Slogan. Comfort at any cost, unless it's too expensive. Motto. Taken from Tolkien. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole, filled with the ends of worms and the oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole, with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. They memorize as much of their motto as is comfortable. The approval seekers. The best way to prove worthiness is to have lots of people tell you how wonderful you are. Approval seekers work so hard for other people's approval that they have little or no time to seek their own. But their own doesn't matter. They, after all, are unworthy. And what's the worth of an unworthy person's opinion? These people take the opposite track of rebels. Rebels deem the opinions of others unworthy. Approval seekers deem others' opinions too worthy. Approval seekers would run for class president, but they're afraid of a backlash, so they usually win treasury by a landslide. Most feared fortune cookie. Fine words and an insinuating appearance are seldom associated with true virtue. Slogan. What can I do for you today? Motto. Nice sweater. Without such people, homecoming floats would never get built. You've probably been able to place all your friends in their respective clubhouses. If you're having trouble placing yourself, you might ask a few friends. Footnote. If you reject the idea that you could possibly fit into any category, you're probably a rebel. If you accept your friends' evaluations too readily, you may be looking for approval. If you forget to ask, maybe you're unconscious. If you're afraid to ask, you may be seeking comfort. And if a friend says, "You don't fit in any of these, you seem to transcend them all," well, that person's probably looking for your approval. Most of us tend to pay some dues to each chapter at one time or another, about one aspect of life or another. We may, for example, be rebels when it comes to speed limits, unconscious when it comes to income tax, comfort junkies when it comes to our favorite bad habit, and approval seekers in intimate relationships. These are also the four major ways people avoid learning. The rebels don't need to learn. The unconscious don't remember why they should. The comfort seekers find it too risky. Yeah, well, whatever. And the approval seekers don't want to rock any boats. Most of us have our own personal combination of the four, and a little of this and a little of that has perhaps kept us from learning all we'd like to know. How to surmount these ancient barriers? Tools, techniques, and practice, practice, practice. Where do we find these tools? Well, the rest of this book has quite a few. And so will this website that shall never be popular. Nobody comes to a tool shed. Or, as our first book said, nobody goes to the outhouse. I'm the outhouse. Oh, Buddha, 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 Buddha. Hey, I don't know who said this. They say Dr. Michael Mantell said it. Rule 1, don't sweat the small stuff. Rule 2, it's all small stuff. Yeah. Rules as tools. One of the most effective tools for eager learners is one of the oldest and one of the first to be resisted. Rules. As soon as we are able, as late as 2 years old for the late bloomers, we learned how to get around rules. In most cases, rules were treated as the enemy, something laid out by an impersonal and perhaps tyrannical world, designed to limit us, punish us, or upset us. It's easy to see how rules could be thought of as the enemy. From a child's point of view, if there were no rules, our parents would never be upset with us. Only when a rule was violated did they withdraw their love. If those rules weren't there, our parents would always love us, or so goes the logic of a child. Further, it seemed as though rules were some sort of childhood curse, like chickenpox, mumps, or measles. Adults got to stay up late and watch TV. Adults got to eat 2 desserts. Adults got to cross the street. Adults never had to take afternoon naps. When can I do this, we would ask. When you're older, we were told. Rules, we figured, were some temporary malady, like chickenpox or siblings. We just had to endure it. One fine day, it would all be over. Imagine our surprise as we grew older, 3, 4, 5, when we found out that the number and complexity of the rules actually increased. Hold on, I have to see if my delivery has come to me. It doesn't look like it. Oh, it is like it. Wow. I knew that there would... Wait. That's an old order. Oh, you're right about that. Okay. Okay. I have not checked my order. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope it wasn't too obnoxious. A sign in a Tokyo hotel says, "Is forbidden to steal towels, please. If you are not person to do such, is please not to read notice." And then came the repository of rules itself, school. After the initial shock, we gulped, and to one degree or another accepted our fate. The rules will continue, unabated, for 12 more years. Then they'll be over? Hardly. Many of the childhood rules were internalized. They didn't go away. They just became habits. We didn't play in traffic, not because it was a rule, but because we knew the consequences of playing in traffic. We didn't stay up late all night watching TV because we knew how we feel in the morning. And we didn't have 2 desserts because, well, maybe we did. But we knew that it would do what it would do, and it did. The confusion about rules when we were young was that some rules were useful to us and some were not. We were, however, expected to follow all of them, or else. In time, rules we found useful were no longer rules. They became part of us. And the ones that didn't became part of us were rules, and we hated them, or forgot about them, or ignored them, or followed them for approval, or some combination. I I guess I put myself in a position where I didn't have to obey it. I guess I was an unconscious rebel. I would be a rules rapist like a motherfucker. Oh, sorry, there's children watching. But it's not good. Da, 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 da. Take walking, for example. Walking is full of rules. Considering the size of our feet and the height of our body, human beings have no business standing at all. Hey, try to get a Barbie doll or a G.I. Joe to stand up without support, especially in heels. G.I. Joe has a very difficult time in heels. If we forget any of the rules of walking, gravity exacts its punishment. It is swift, unerring, and consistent. So we learn the rules of walking and make these rules our own. Same is true of language, use of our hands, general body coordination, and so on. All these things we weren't born doing. We had to learn. Each has its own set of rules. Once we mastered the rules and made them our own, we forgot the rules and just did it. And some rules are absolute, some arbitrary. Keep breathing is absolute. Drive on the right side of the road in North America is arbitrary. There's no special reason to drive on the right side of the road. Approximately half the world drives on the left side. The reason it's a good rule is that as long as everybody follows it, it works. And we don't have to decide every time we pass an oncoming car which way to pass it. It saves time, attention, worry, and lives. Sometimes rule following is part of paying your dues. You may know a better way of doing something. That is, you may have a new rule that's better than the old one, but in order to implement the improved rule, you have to follow the old rule for a while. And once you master the old rule, you are then the master, and masters get to change things. Once you're successful at something, to do it in another way is considered innovative. If you've yet to master the old way, it is often seen as rebellion. I'm certainly not saying conform and you'll be happy. To change rules that are already in place takes time and energy, perseverance, and a lot of hard work. But you only have so many of these assets at your disposal, so choose with care the rules you want to change. What I'm suggesting is that you change your view of rules, and this book is full of rules. If you treat them the way many people treat rules, with rebellion, unconsciousness, discomfort, or as a new way to gain other people's acceptance, these techniques that I'm suggesting will probably not be very useful. They'll just be more shoulds, musts, ought tos, and have tos. As I mentioned before, I'm suggesting that you take each suggestion as a suggestion and try it out. See if it works. If it does, use it. Then it's a tool, not a rule. And if it doesn't, then let it go and move on to something that may. Then it's not a rule. It's just a tool that, for whatever reason, you have no use for at this time. Here are 3 rules that I've found to be the foundation for all the other rules I have adopted for myself. If rules is too strong a word, consider them perhaps guidelines, or the Pirate's Code. They're simple, but I've found that the challenges within them never seem to end. 1. Don't hurt yourself, and don't hurt others. This begins at the physical level. Don't hit people, don't steal from them, don't hit yourself on the head with a hammer. These are fairly easy to define. And then it moves to a more subtle level. Don't ingest things that aren't good for you. Stay away from dangerous places. Never tell a man named Killer his nose is crooked. It continues on the mental and emotional levels. Don't judge yourself or others. Worry less. Enough already with the guilts and resentments. There's always seems to be a subtler level at which we can stop doing harm to ourselves and others. Number 2, take care of yourself so that you can help take care of others. Physically, get enough, but not too much. Food, enough water, enough exercise, enough rest, mentally and emotionally. Praise yourself for work well done. Enjoy each moment. Love yourself. The second part of it is so that you can help take care of others. Does not say that you must help take care of others. It simply states the requirement. Take care of yourself. Necessary for helping to take care of others should you feel so inclined. If you're not the first, or if you're not first taking care of yourself, you won't be able to help take care of others. If you don't take care of yourself, in fact, others will eventually be taking care of you. And 3, use everything for your upliftment, learning, and growth. Everything. No matter what you do, no matter how stupid, dumb, or damaging you judge it to be, there's a lesson to be learned from it. No matter what happens to you, no matter how unfair, inequitable, or wrong, there's nothing you can take from the situation. There's something you can take from the situation and use for your upliftment, learning, or growth. I'm not saying intentionally do silly things so that you can learn from an inevitable disaster, or solicit evil so that you can gain from it. And we all do enough silly things, and we have enough nastiness done to us without having to create or invite any more. Remember the writer's creed. When the world gives you lemons, write the lemon cookbook. There. Those 3 should keep you busy, for the rest of your life. Explaining the many facts of the facets of these rules and the ways you can grow from them will take me at least the remainder of this book. And that will be all for today. Have a good night.